we need to talk about the unspoken, the invisible architecture of control that dictates the most painful parts of your life. Here at Unspoken Rules, we expose them, the psychological realities that are operating just beneath the surface of your awareness.
I want you to really think about this. That magnetic pull, the one that drags you back to a person who brings you nothing but pain, the obsessive thoughts that loop in your head, the constant analysis, that sliver of hope that feels more like a prison cell. So why? Why does your own mind seem to betray you like this? Why can't you just walk away?
The answer is a harsh one, and you need to hear it. What you're feeling is not a deep, unbreakable bond of love. It is literally a textbook psychological addiction, and in so many cases, it was deliberately engineered to control you. What you're experiencing is the result of a system, and today we're going to dismantle it, piece by painful piece.
To understand this, we have to start at the very beginning, with the fundamental engine that drives this kind of obsession. We're talking about a mechanism so powerful, it can make a laboratory rat completely neglect its own survival, all in the pursuit of a reward.
Okay, so this mechanism, it's called intermittent reinforcement. The idea comes from B.F. Skinner's research on conditioning, and what he found was absolutely game-changing. He discovered that unpredictable rewards, getting a treat sometimes, create a far more powerful and persistent response than consistent ones. It's the psychological engine behind gambling, video game addiction, and yes, the most toxic relationships you can imagine. And right here, this is the crucial distinction you have to understand. On one side, you've got continuous reinforcement. The reward is predictable. You press the lever, you get the food pellet, every single time. When the food stops coming, you lose interest pretty quickly. That's just simple expectation, right? But now look at the other side. With intermittent reinforcement, the reward is totally unpredictable. And that doesn't create expectation. It creates a neurological addiction. The behavior becomes obsessive, and it persists long after the rewards have completely stopped.
And this is the real cost. The rat wasn't just persistent, it was self-destructing. It became so utterly consumed by the possibility of a reward, by the maybe, that it sacrificed its own well-being. The hope for the reward became more important than the reality of its absence. Sound familiar?
So how does this show up in our lives? Well, it's that classic hot and cold dynamic. Intense affection one day, cold, brutal distance the next. It's designed to leave you confused, blaming yourself, desperately scrambling to figure out the pattern so you can get that reward of their affection again. This vicious cycle hijacks your brain's dopamine system, creating an intense trauma bond that feels absolutely impossible to break with just willpower alone. But here's where it gets deeper. This isn't just some subconscious pattern that happens by accident in insecure people. In the hands of a master manipulator, this becomes a conscious, calculated strategy of power. There's an entire architecture built around the strategic use of absence to manufacture desire and control.
You know, Robert Greene absolutely codified this in his 16th law of power. Constant presence and availability makes you common. It cheapens your value. But strategic withdrawal, after you've established your worth, that creates a void. It makes you more talked about, more admired, more desired. Absence becomes a weapon to command attention. Okay, so what is actually going on inside our heads that makes this so damn effective? The answer lies in something called construal level theory. All it means is that psychological distance, whether it's time, space, or social distance, it forces our brains to think more abstractly. When someone is distant, our brains literally stop seeing their concrete human flaws. They're no longer the person who leaves their socks on the floor. Instead, we see this idealized, abstract version of them. We fill in all the gaps with our own hopes and projections. They stop being a person, and they become a symbol. And look, absence never works alone. It's just one tool in a whole toolkit of strategic distance. Saying less than necessary, that forces other people to talk, to reveal themselves, to fill that uncomfortable silence with their own insecurities. Being unpredictable, that keeps them perpetually off balance, completely unable to anticipate your next move. It's a whole system designed to maintain control by disrupting the other person's sense of reality. And this isn't some new age idea. The true masters of strategy have understood this for centuries. Charles de Gaulle built his entire persona on prestige and mystery. He knew that calculated silence forces everyone, allies and enemies alike, to exhaust themselves trying to figure out what you're thinking. His absence was often way more powerful than his presence ever was. So let's flip this around.
What is actually happening inside the mind of the person on the receiving end of the strategy? What is this void that's created by absence? Well, I can tell you it's not empty. It's a weaponized state of psychological distress. See, this whole strategy of creating distance, it's not just about making someone miss you. It's about making them question themselves, their value, their perception, their own sanity. It is a direct assault on their sense of self.
And this works because it taps into one of our most fundamental human vulnerabilities. It's explained by something called uncertainty identity theory. Just think about it. We all have this deep-seated need to know who we are. Feeling uncertain about ourselves is a profoundly stressful and painful state. And that distress creates this powerful, desperate motivation to find something or someone to cling to for a sense of identity and clarity.
And this is how the trap is laid. It's a simple, brutal, four-stage cycle. First, a person of power creates distance and unpredictability. Second, this distance triggers profound self-uncertainty in their target. They feel lost, anxious, confused. Third, to escape the pain of this uncertainty, the target desperately identifies with the very source of their distress, that powerful person or their group. And finally, this forges a fanatical loyalty, a bond created not from admiration, but from a desperate need to resolve an internal crisis. And make no mistake, this isn't just about one-on-one toxic relationships. As psychologist Michael Hogg points out, this exact mechanism explains the psychology of the true believer, the fanatic who is completely in the grip of an ideology or a powerful leader. Extreme uncertainty can and does spawn extremism. Which brings us to the final and maybe the most important layer of all this. Who are the people who wield these tools so effectively? Is it something they learn, or is there a specific type of personality that is just hardwired to see the world this way? Well, research points to a personality variable called social dominance orientation, or SDO for short. People who are high in SDO don't just accept social hierarchies, they prefer them. They are fundamentally motivated to achieve, maintain, and enhance their dominant position over other people. To them, the world is a competitive arena, and dominance is the only goal. And what's absolutely fascinating is that there seems to be a biological component to this. Neurobehavioral studies have found that individuals with high SDO have significantly faster reaction times when they're forced to make decisions under uncertain conditions. Where other people hesitate and feel stress, these individuals process information more swiftly to reassert control. So we're not just talking about behavior here. We're talking about actual brain function. Brain scans show that high SDO individuals have a distinct neural signature when they're facing uncertainty. This suggests that their ability to not just tolerate, but actively exploit uncertain situations might actually be a hardwired biological advantage in the game of power. Okay, so now you can see the entire system laid out piece by piece. It's a clear chain of psychological cause and effect, moving from behavior to strategy to vulnerability and all the way to personality. So let's put it all together. This is the system. You have an addictive behavioral engine, intermittent reinforcement. That engine is then wielded as a conscious strategy, the architecture of absence. That strategy works by targeting a core human vulnerability, our terror of self-uncertainty. And it is wielded most effectively by a specific personality type, the high SDO individual who is neurologically equipped for it. So, there it is. You now have the blueprint. You can see the unspoken rules of the game being played around you, and sometimes inside of you. The question is not what you just learned. The real question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you go back to blissful ignorance, content to be a pawn in a game you don't understand? Or will you commit, right now, to seeing reality as it truly is? If you're ready to see, then subscribe and join a community that refuses to be manipulated. The choice is yours.